So we are talking about generating college talk in your high school, and the first thing we wanted to talk to you all about is why is college talk important? So the first thing you'd want to talk to students about is why they should even consider going to college. A lot of students at this stage don't know what they want to do as far as their post-secondary plans. So making a good case to even consider college is always one of the really good first steps. So why go to college? So here's some just brief reasons why students might want to consider going to college, and might push students who are on the edge deciding which way to go. So college opens doors to opportunity and expands their horizons. Students will experience new points of view. A lot of times students don't have an opportunity to go to a very diverse high school, and so college gives you a great new opportunity to talk with people who are different from you and learn from their perspective and learn from their life points of view, which is really a great experience to talk to students about how college is not only an opportunity for you to become a better learner, but also for you to grow as a person. Graduating from college is a great source of pride because it's a great accomplishment. So students, regardless of what type of college or where they go to college, if they graduate, it's a great accomplishment for them to be able to do that, regardless of what level or what prestige the school is. And finally, the students get to follow their dreams and determine their future. I think a lot of students think that college is an extension of high school in terms of they don't really get a chance to pick their classes, but that's not true, as we all know. So making sure to let students know that in college, you're going to have a lot more autonomy to choose classes that you're interested in and pursue a career that you are interested in. So I've pulled together some statistics and some graphs that I've found that I think might help bolster the argument even further. So looking at this one, this is a graph of college graduates, and it definitely makes the argument that college graduates earn more money. So here on the left-hand side, we can see that we have all the different education levels, being high school dropout all the way to professional degrees, which is your MDs or your law degrees. And you can see the discrepancy is almost $4.5 million. And a professional degree does not cost $4.5 million. So just pointing out that difference for students. But more looking at our high school graduates, because our goal is obviously to have everyone graduate from high school. So they make about $1.5 million in their lifetime. But even if they pursue an associate's degree, the average lifetime earnings of someone who has an associate's degree is $1.9 million. And we know that an associate's degree does not cost $400,000. And if students even decide to do a bachelor's degree after that, it is $2.7 million in their lifetime, which is almost $1 million. No, it is $1 million more than a high school graduate. So you can show students that while college is an expensive option, don't discount it, because your return on investment will come. Also, people that attend college and pursue post-secondary education are less likely to experience unemployment. So we can see our high school dropout population has a 9% unemployment rate, whereas our professional degree population has a 1.7% unemployment rate. So even decreasing the unemployment rate by almost 2%, or no, almost half, from high school to bachelor's degree is something worthy to note. So this video I love, it is talking about, these students are talking about their experience in college and what they would, and things that they've learned in the high school to college transition.
In college, there is so much freedom in terms of time, scheduling.
You're not only choosing your own schedule, but you're choosing what classes you want to take, what classes you don't want to take.
Around the time of freshman orientation, we were given these booklets with hundreds of courses that you could take from dozens of different departments and programs. And I thought it would be a good idea to just grab a highlighter and go through every single page and mark up every class that sounded remotely interesting. And at the end of this, when I got to the end of the book, I probably had about 60 courses highlighted. Concept of the cosmos, sociology of the school, race in America, U.S. education.
The cool thing about college is that at any given point in any given day, you're going to run into a really amazing person who's going to blow your mind about something that you haven't thought about.
The support system is amazing. All the kids here are so passionate and they're so into their learning. I think that's what I find different than high school. I'm not the one that's pushing and everybody else is just satisfied with doing what they need to graduate.
The students actually want to be there. that's a big difference in the high school to college. Everybody's really friendly. There's not as much cliques. Everybody's just cool, nice. You can talk to anyone. That's the best thing about college.
Just being exposed to new ideas, new people, new cultures, it's completely mind-changing.
So I work 3 jobs. I work at the admissions office, I work for my cultural center, and I work at my residential college. And I studied abroad twice, once in Madrid and once in London. And I've had 2 internships, one in Minneapolis and one in Alaska. And over the course of all these experiences, there have been several instances where I'm just like, I cannot believe how radically different my life is now than it was before.
Because it's fun to look at Shakespeare when you're actually in London, or it's fun to be able to dream something and then work for it and then see it happen.
I cannot believe every day I'm so surprised by how much I've grown since I was in high school. When I was in high school and I was looking at colleges, I had no idea how I was going to fare. I didn't know how I was going to succeed. It seemed like this big thing so far away that everyone else was in on except for me. I've really found myself, and I know who I am, and I'm just so excited by continuing this intellectual journey. It's just something that's very exciting to me.
It basically has allowed me to dream much bigger, and not only dream much bigger, but also realize that those dreams are very possible as well.
All right, so I love that video because I think it just shows the richness of the college experience from lots of different perspectives for students. So while in the video you can see that there was a wide variety of racial and ethnic diversity. Unfortunately, that's not the case for the overall college population. So I have a couple of statistics here, and then I'm going to talk with you about some further identifying these gaps in college attendance and why it's important for us as educators to be aware of this. So underrepresented populations have lower odds of completing high school and enrolling in college, according to many different documents. I just cited 2 here. We have the Carter and Wilson in 1997 and also Social Science Research Council Project in 2005. So looking further at the statistic is that the high school completion rates of African Americans is 77% and Latinos was 57%, which trailed their white counterparts, which was at 82%. So you can see that particularly the Latino statistic is the most surprising, being that it is around 20% lower, more than 20% lower, and the African American statistic is lower and still worrisome, but that Latino one is very, very worrisome. So Latino and African American college participation rates were equal at 35%, whereas white participation rate was at 43%. So that's 8% different, which is worrisome and also something that we need to be aware of as educators, because it's important to make sure that all students know that college can be an option for them. So the National Center for Education Statistics released a report called The Status and Trends in Education of Racial and Ethnic Groups. The most recent one I could find is from 2016, and I grabbed these following figures from that 200-page document. So here we can see total college enrollment rates for 18 to 24-year-olds in degree-granting institutions by race, ethnicity from 1990 to 2013. So degree-granting institutions could be associate's degree, so community colleges and four-year colleges. So in 1990, we can see that Asian overall, we can see that the Asian population has the highest participation in attendance of degree granting institutions. You can also see that they didn't start collecting data on biracial students and Pacific Islander students until 2003, which is also interesting. But you can see that Asian is the highest, white is most often the second highest, and there's been a lot of dips and valleys and peaks in the biracial and the Pacific Islander data. But overall, you can see that Hispanic, Alaskan Native and American Indian, and Black students fare much worse than their white counterparts in this participation. So it's good to be aware that that gap has existed all the way from 1990 until 2013, but it looks like there are parts where it is growing and the gap is lessening. So the overall goal is for us obviously to close that gap. So I like this graph because it shows the enrollment rates in the degree granting institutions, but also shows the disparities in sex and participation by sex. So total, you can see overall that males participate less often than females in enrolling in college. And you can see, I think, a lot better the disparity between white counterparts and the people of color, being Black and Hispanic. So white has pretty much stayed the same participation rate, and Black and Hispanic have grown, which is wonderful. But you can still see that we're headed in the right direction, but nonetheless, there's still a gap, which means that there's still more work to be done. And so participating in college talk development in your school is a really great and necessary thing to help decrease this gap. Our final graph that I'm going to talk about today, and this graph just shows the percentage of high school completers who enroll immediately in a 2 or 4 year college or university. And it's disaggregated by race/ethnicity. The only thing that I'm going to say up front about the issues I see with this graph is that the breakdowns of demographics are white, Black, Hispanic, and not all students that are Latino identify as Hispanic. So that's the only thing I can see that might actually make this gap look a little bit smaller, because some of those Latino students might identify as Black and some might identify as white. And so we just need to keep that in mind when we're looking at it. Regardless, though, you can see that there's a pretty significant gap between Black students, Hispanic students, and white students in their immediate participation after high school in college or university, which is concerning because we want to make sure that all students have access immediately, because we know from research that it is much harder to go back to school after you've taken time off in between your schooling. And overall, we can see the trend that Asian students are doing much better on this measure. But we as educators have a calling in order to decrease the gap in achievements and opportunities of our students between our students of color and white students. And so we need to make sure that we figure out how we can make college make college more accessible to all students. And so what we're going to do in the following slides is my co-presenters are going to present ways that you can implement in your school how to increase college talk in your school, and you'll get an opportunity to work together and try and think of it more on your personal school level.